What comes to mind when you hear the words choosing you? Selfish, or maybe egotistical, or even centered? Choosing you is actually the best thing that you can ever do for yourself. And sometimes that looks like walking away from a relationship that doesn't serve you. And as much as it's painful, it's a deeply rewarding process. Because when you choose you, you must begin with self-love. And self-love is something that permeates all your relationships because you cannot give to others what you don't have for yourself. I'll be talking to Lucy about this journey, and Lucy is a sociologist in tech, and she's so passionate about building products that people love. And her guiding principles are it's human-centered, it's really driven by data, and it's all about having impact with the products that she makes. And technology also plays a key aspect in her approach to building those products that people love. Her key drivers are impact, love, and freedom. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you, ma'am.
I love that.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
I need something like that.
Inches.
My fellow locks person, I might add. It's so good to see you. Thank you for being here. It's been such an amazing experience watching you bloom. Like your journey has just been so inspiring because I've obviously been a part of it here and there, and I feel honored as well at the same time that you're willing to talk about it because I think it's through sharing our stories that really help us all see that we're all more or less on the same path, you know?
Correct. Yes, yeah.
So I was reflecting on a quote by Carl Jung, and it goes something to the effect of facing yourself or self-acceptance is the most terrifying thing that you'll ever do. And when I was thinking about our conversation, I was actually, it's a lot of that, isn't it? It's a lot of looking within, accepting ourselves, and taking ownership of ourselves more than anything. So going back to my intro, when you hear the words choosing you, what comes to mind for you right now?
I think I'm going to tie it somewhat directly to the key words that you used to describe me. So around freedom, love, and impact, right? And I think my experience for most of my life has been seeking those things, right? So seeking freedom, seeking love, and seeking impact, right? And I think when I sat and I reflected on it, a lot of that was coming from a place of feeling like there wasn't enough of it in the world. So my experience in the world wasn't filled with a lot of love. I felt caged in a lot of spaces. So maybe in my role as, let's say, a wife, and I'll say societal expectations to say, if you're a wife, you must do this, you must do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I think also just like, maybe some of those were expectations that I had also placed on myself to say, when you assume a certain role, this is what you should expect of yourself, right? So the journey, I guess, has been understanding that in as much as those are things that have been important to me, because of my experience of life being that they were lacking, right? So there was a shortage of them. So I moved in the world as someone who was almost like demanding that from other people, but I wasn't giving it, right? So I think the journey for me of learning to choose myself has been really much around understanding and defining for myself who I am. And I guess I'm actually using those three concepts or values to say, if freedom is so important to me, and if love is so important to me, if impact is so important to me, what would it look like to be someone who is that, so that I'm attracting more of that in my life? Because in order to get that, I think it's easier to attract it into your life and even receive it when you are already operating from a space where you are all of that. As opposed to demanding it out of people. So yeah, choosing myself has been defining for myself who am I, and not necessarily looking to the other, whether it's my mother or my friends, my husband, society in general,
Yeah.
to tell me who I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been painful though.
Yeah,
as you said.
I can imagine. And I've also been on a similar path
Yeah.
of choosing myself and
Yeah.
walking away from a relationship
Yeah.
that wasn't aligned with what I could sense in my spirit I'm called to do.
Yeah.
And with you walking away from your marriage, what would you say was the defining moment? Because I understand from my personal journey, at least, is that these things are kind of like a build-up.
Yeah.
It builds up, it builds
Yeah.
up. And then something happens or an experience, I don't know, but there's always that moment where like, do you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
What was that for you?
I think for me, it almost happened like it was like a big bang,
Wow.
actually. Yes. Which I guess is somewhat different from the experience that you were speaking to. Because, I mean, you knew me in the context of my relationship at the time. And anyone who knew me then, and even before the marriage itself, knew that I referred to him as my personal person, right? And my experience of the relationship and the marriage itself, based on my frame of reference at the time, was amazing. Like, I was happy, right? And then one day, in fact, I think if I'm being transparent, it was initiated by him, right? To say, look, we've been on this journey. I am aware of the person you are, what you value, and there are, I guess, certain aspects of myself that actually just don't allow for me to show up for you in the way that you would need me to show up for you in order to live the life that you want, right? And that you have, I guess, previously communicated that this is what you want, this is the person you are. And it really was a shock to my system, right? It was a shock to my system. So much so that I think at the beginning, I got myself into therapy, and that was the first time I got into therapy.
Yeah.
And I was seeing my therapist like 2 or 3 times a week, right? Because I really felt like I needed someone or something to help balance me, because it was a shock to the system. So my journey to choosing myself wasn't necessarily self-initiated. It's almost like I was pushed into the space where it's like, you thought it was working, it's not working, and here we are. So what do you do with this, right? And how do you make sense of it? But I'm glad it happened. I wasn't glad when it was happening, because it was really painful. And like I said, it was a shock to my system because I hadn't seen it coming. But it's one of the best things that has happened to me.
I can attest to that, because it's the darkest moments in our lives that often carry the deepest learning for us.
Yes.
And I want to reference my previous guest, Debbie, where she was talking about
the
that.
good doctor.
and I love how the episodes just seem to flow like one into the next one. And I'm so grateful to the divine for that.
Yes.
So with you going into therapy, that's quite a huge step culturally as well. You mentioned that sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, culture can get in the way of us becoming certain things about our cultures can stand in the way. And one of the things that people tend to think they shouldn't do, especially as a Black person, is they shouldn't go for therapy, because therapy means you're weak. It means that you're trying to be white. I hear that a lot amongst people, because sometimes with the people that I'm coaching, I say to them, I think a therapist would be better suited to support you. I can continue to be there as
not
a coach
per se,
but a therapist would better serve you. And people would say things like, a therapist, but I'm not mad. But
like there's nothing wrong
yeah,
with me.
I've got so much to be grateful for. It's not
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
I'm about to drop dead and I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening in my
Yeah.
life and I've
Yeah.
lost control. I
Yes.
don't need a therapist.
Yeah.
So you deciding to do that.
Yeah.
What would you say were the key things you got out of it? So I get that it's a continuous process and
Yeah.
it happened probably over a period of time.
Yeah.
But what stands out for you from that journey when you were in therapy?
I think for me, or at least the relationship I have with my therapist, is also maybe somewhat of a coach, right? So, in as much as obviously I went to her and I was very much having like a breakdown at the time,
Yeah.
I think she created a space where I could process my emotions without any judgment, right? But also then giving me the tools to help me stand. Because after some time, after we had sessions, maybe for about 2 or 3 months, we essentially got to a point where she herself had actually said, I think you can now actually stand on your own. Like, you don't need a therapist to be holding your hand as you go through this journey, right? And I think that for me was also reflective of how, let me say, I think the process itself highlighted for me that I also, or the role that I play in my own healing has largely been that I've started seeing myself somewhat as like a system, right? So there's the mind, there's the body, there's the spirit, and I guess the heart, soul. And I started, with the help of therapy, seeing myself as a full being, but also starting to uncover the layers of Lucy, right? To say, okay, the way I think, the way I talk to myself, how has all of that created my current experience of life? So like where I find myself. So in as much as it's not what I had planned for, right? Because for me, I very much felt like my life was going according to the script. I got married before 30 and and then like life was working out, like even not necessarily professionally per se, but even then I was working for good companies. Yes, I had challenges in terms of experiencing the growth I wanted, but otherwise like things were working out as expected.
Yeah.
But I think with therapy, it gave me that opportunity to pause and be like, okay, there are certain things in how life has panned out that you are not happy or satisfied with. What has your role been in that, right? Yeah, and it gave me that opportunity to really uncover for myself, like, who are you? What makes up Lucy? And are you happy with what makes up Lucy? And if you're not happy with what makes up Lucy, how do we transform that into something that you will be happy with?
And you touch on such a key point around accepting the role we played in the relationship. And it kind of goes in phases, I think, because in the beginning it's like, how could this happen? I did so much for him. I did so much for her. Do they know how lucky they were to have me?
To be in the presence of all of this.
Hey, like, guys, look at us. But then as time goes on and you're intentional about doing that inner work, you go in, like you said, those layers of self-acceptance, speaking to the quote that I shared earlier. So what was something about yourself that surprised you or you weren't aware of, maybe, as you went deeper within yourself?
Look, I think I have always known that I've got a bit of a sharp tongue.
Okay. I like the way you say that with a smile on your face.
But I guess I wasn't aware of how much I can slice and dice. Right?
With your tongue.
With my tongue. And I guess maybe in my mind, it was... Because, you're responding to something. So you hurt me, and then from a place of responding to the pain, I'm expressing myself. But in expressing myself, I'm not necessarily being vulnerable, like going deep and saying, like, this makes me sad. This makes me feel unwanted or rejected. But instead, you always, you never, and you are this person. And you characterize the person from a place of being very hurt. And then therefore you chop and dice, right? And I think that was one of those like really hard things for me to face about myself, right? To say, and our words have power, they have impact on other people. And I guess as I became aware of that, and it wasn't necessarily focused on the other. I think how I came to that realization was when I was thinking about how I talk to myself, right? And as I've become kinder to myself, to say, I would never like look in the mirror and say, oh, you're stupid. Like, oh, I can, like, it hurts me even saying that, right? Like, I could never say that I am stupid. So how could I say that to someone else, right? So when I realized the effect that my words had on me, and I think this came with like the practice of like doing affirmations, because then I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I'm a free, loving, impactful woman. And I'm like, okay, I am a spirit living in a body, you know? And then the more I start to see myself like that, and I look at the other and I see them like that, then it becomes more of an injury, I think, almost to self and to the other, if I speak to them using the sharp tongue. So it was hard to come to that acceptance, but I'm grateful for that.
And I read or I watched somewhere, and I don't know how true this is. I haven't verified it, but it stayed with me. It was saying that our consciousness doesn't know when we're talking about somebody else, something to that effect. And I hope I'm making sense, so stay with me.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
When we say bad things about other people, our consciousness takes it as though we're saying it to ourselves.
Yes.
And it got me thinking around the sharp tongue.
Yes.
So during that time, is it fair to say then that you were speaking badly? You had a sharp tongue towards yourself.
To myself, yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was also maybe somewhat desensitized or not sensitive to the impact that my words have on the other person, right? Because even as I speak to me, it's the same kind of language or tone that I use with myself. Whereas now, the kinder I am to myself, the kinder I actually am to other people, right? The more I view myself, let's say, as a spiritual being, as a vessel for God to work in and through, the more I can also see the other person in the same way. So like even as I look at you now, I'm like, okay, Mayo is a vessel that God is working through. So even in this conversation, it's a divine encounter in itself. So how can I now speak and like slice and dice you? Because what am I saying about you, but also in a way, what does that say about me? Because what comes out of my mouth is reflective of who I am as well and my thoughts, right? So, yeah, it really is. And I think that's why I'm also somewhat learning to not pass judgment on other people. Because like what you're saying, if I am judging you, first I must have judged myself, right? And sometimes the things that we are looking at and judging in other people are things that maybe it's almost like it's a mirror for you to be like, maybe you don't like that this person is laid back because you're a bit of a control freak, right? So there's something about them that upsets you because it's almost like a direct contradiction to who you are. But wouldn't it be nice to be a bit more laid back and just like go with the flow? But you can't access that because it's you don't know how to, my sister.
Yeah, it's so true. You remind me of a conversation I was having with my friend Joanna. So I was saying to her that she needs to get out more because she's always work kids. So, and I said to her, when I go out, I dance. I am that girl
You make
that
sure.
you'll be looking at and you'll be like, can't she just calm down? You'll be hating her because she's so free with herself, you know? And she said that she's that person who sits and judges other people because she wishes she
You
could
wish
be
you could.
that
You wish you
person.
could. So it's almost like from an envious place to be like, yo,
Yeah.
I wish I could dress
wish I
like
could
that.
do
I wish I
that.
could.
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
used, sorry, I
no,
was going to say,
no,
I used
carry
to
on.
see girls wearing like shorts, you know, and like nice body. And you're walking around, and I'm like, ooh. You know, I don't know if I would like walk around. But
Yeah.
now, like the more accepting I've become also of my body,
Yeah.
the more I'm free to do things like that. So it's not from a place of, but how could you? How could It's
Yeah.
do your thing, baby girl. You look good. You feel comfortable. It's
Yeah.
not about the other person. It's not even about me as I'm watching you, right?
Yeah.
Like live your life. And I think as
Yeah.
I'm learning to let people live their lives, I think I'm also freer to do the same for myself, to say whatever feels good for me, even if it's dancing
Yeah.
with my two left feet, I'm going to do it because it feels good in the moment,
Yeah.
right? Or you might catch me like walking around and like I'm like humming to myself and I'm like doing a little dance. That's how I'm doing grocery shopping.
Yeah.
And I've had people ask me, they're like, so what are you on? What did you have for breakfast today? And I'm like,
So
oh,
she's happy.
I didn't realize I was doing that. Sorry, people.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that energy. You mentioned something really critical earlier when you were talking about looking externally
Sure.
for validation. The world needs to love me. They need to give me this. They need to do this for me. So when you began realizing that I actually need to do this for myself, what was happening at that point in your life? What influenced you to start looking within yourself, to give yourself what you wanted so much from other people?
I think it's like what I was saying earlier, to say the key themes based on the exercise I had done at the time, because I went through this training and identified the things that I felt like were missing in my world,
Yeah.
namely being freedom, love, and impact,
Yeah.
right? The
Sorry, when you
key-
say training, what do you mean?
Hey, it was a leadership training
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Yeah, it was like a
okay.
leadership training thing.
Because I'm like, therapists train people
No,
now.
no. It wasn't the therapist. It wasn't that. It was a different leadership development
All right,
training
got it,
that one
got
of my
it.
employers had sent me on.
Okay,
And
okay.
we did like a number of exercises over like a 2-week period.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, there was like basically like a question that's posed to say, what do you want? What do you want? And then I was like, I want freedom, I want love, I want impact, right? But in the 2 weeks leading up to that, what the training, I guess, had positioned me to realize was that in my experience of life, I felt like there wasn't enough freedom, there wasn't enough love, there wasn't enough impact, right? So when I guess, came to that realization, I had another accompanying realization that in order to change my experience of the world and of life, to have all of that, I needed to be all of that. So like the conversation we just spoke about now in terms of allowing other people the space to be free, I needed to be free, right? And in me being free, I can enjoy your freedom, whatever that freedom presents itself at. So whether it's you dancing or whatever the case is. And the same thing with love. I stopped trying to get love from, let's say, a romantic partner, but started to see love, I want to say, it's like an energy, right? Because it's everywhere. Like, I look at my dog, Queen Latifah, and I'm like, there's so much love. Like, there's times I look at Queen and like, I get teary-eyed because of the connection and the love that I feel from her, right? I experience love in like walking around and seeing like flowers, right? Because I feel like it's reflective of, man, like the Creator loves us so much that there's all this goodness and wholesomeness around us. It's not something that I need to extract from another human being who might not even necessarily be in a position to give it to me at that point in time. Or maybe they don't even want to give it to you, right? Not in the way that you want to experience it. Yeah, and I think that's been that journey, right? To learning that I must first embody it in order to receive it.
Yeah. What lies have you had to unlearn about yourself?
What lies have I had to unlearn about myself? I think this one is a bit of a I want to say controversial one, because it might not be theologically sound, right?
This
but
is a safe space. Feel free to
thank
say
you, ma'am. Thank you.
whatever you want to say.
But I think for a lot of us who grew up like in the church, the key message that we hear, even if it's not necessarily being preached every Sunday, but I guess you hear it like when we do the altar call, is you're a sinner, right? And sure, I am a sinner. You see how I'm even struggling to say I am a sinner, because like there's a part of me that's like, we're rejecting this at some level, and I'm going to explain what level I'm rejecting this, right? But for me, and I think it was very important considering the state of mind I was in and the need to speak positively to myself, right? Where I started, I guess, almost somewhat moving from a religious relationship kind of thing with God, and it being more spiritual, if I can say that, such that I see myself as someone who's made in the image of God, right? And that's what the Bible also says. So I'm like, if I'm made in the image of God, then what do I know about God, right? Like God is love, as an example, which I think for me ties in quite closely with the thing that I felt like was lacking for such a long time. That was important for me, that I start accessing it almost on a regular basis, like moment to moment. I needed to access this love, right? So seeing myself, or at least starting to question and I guess define for myself who I am, kind of started there to say, if I believe myself to be made in the image of God, what does that look like, right? And I think with some of the podcasts I've been listening to, they speak of self in the lower S and like a capital S, if I can say that, where it's, I guess in some spaces, some people easily differentiate it by saying there's the me that is here today and then there's my higher self. Or if it's in Christian circles, you might say there's the body and the flesh, and then there's the spirit type of thing. So the way I kind of see it is that the flesh is what is sinful, but then the spirit was born perfect, right? I came into this world perfect, made in the image of God, as someone who is loving and is made to experience and share in the love as well, right? And I think that for me has been, I want to say, the biggest lie I've had to unlearn, like seeing myself as a sinner, because I think what that does to one's psyche is it's very easy to then find yourself in a space where you are easily or constantly condemning yourself and even condemning other people. Because then it's very easy to look at a person's actions or behaviors and say, that is so sinful, which again takes us back into that space of being judgmental and. And when you're doing all of that, it's not very aligned, right, to who you are, and I guess who you are actively working on becoming as someone who says, let's say, for example, I'm Christian, which means I'm Christ-like, right? But if you're being judgmental, if you're condemning yourself or other people, then actually your lived experience for most of your time isn't as someone who is in that space, who recognizes themselves as a pure, loving, loved, chosen being. And that was a big one for me. And I'm still kind of processing it. That's why I was like, hey, it's a good thing we're in a safe space.
Do I want to go there?
Because do I want to go there?
Yeah. And thanks for going there. Thanks for that vulnerability, because
Yeah.
these are things that we all struggle with. And when I say things, I'm talking about trying to understand spirituality,
Yeah.
religion
Yeah.
for ourselves,
Yeah.
questioning things, but maybe not being given a space to ask those questions that we have about our religion, our
Yeah.
spirituality.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful that you are able to arrive at something that feels like home for you.
Yeah, I wonder if we have arrived or if we are still in the journey. I'm not sure, but I'm like where I am right now.
Yeah.
Even if it means, because like people say Dululu is the only Solulu.
Yeah.
Someone might watch this and be like, she's Dululu, like you're a sinner. And I'm like, and it's okay, because
Yeah.
Dululu is the only Solulu.
Yeah.
Because the space I'm in right now, where like I'm saying, I'm learning to speak positively into myself and into other people as well. This Dilulu is working for me. So I'm going to stay here until like I'm told to move wherever that movement might take me. But for now, we are here.
It's about flow, I guess. See where things flow to.
Exactly.
And it speaks to the whole process of integration,
Yes.
of accepting parts of yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
That you might not necessarily like,
Yes.
but you can see that, oh, that's a part of Lucy right there.
Yes.
And you're welcome.
Yes.
I love you.
Yes.
I love you.
Like the sharp tongue. I love you. But you're sharp.
Yeah. And how do we dial it up and how do we tone it down?
Yes.
But
and
hey,
how do we use it meaningfully also, right? Yeah.
So when you were looking within yourself and seeing these parts of yourself, you mentioned the sharp tongue. What other things did you had to integrate about yourself and say, this is me. This is a part of who I am. And I say this from a place of acceptance, because we're all on a journey of growing, learning, becoming, unbecoming, unlearning, etc. But there's certain things about ourselves at the same time that we need to have acceptance of in our journey of growth and learning, etc. So what would you say is something else about yourself that you've looked in and you said, oh, okay, that's me. And it's okay.
I think this is an interesting one, because maybe it's something I'm currently like grappling with. But I'm a firstborn daughter. My mom's firstborn. So I'm a firstborn daughter. Which also comes with being a bit of a deputy parent, right? So I'm a deputy parent, but I think it also influences how I show up at work, right?
Yeah.
So by default, I think I'm someone who, if there's a gap, I'm going to fill it, right? I mean, some people might say it's controlling. I don't think it's controlling. And if it is controlling, it is something that I'm having to unlearn, to say you need to give people space to get things done, right? And if they don't do it, there's a constructive way and process and approach that you can follow to help empower and equip them to be able to get things done. You don't have to step in, dear deputy parent, and make things happen, right? So I think that's one of those things that I've had to kind of like accept about myself, to say I have somewhat a very clear vision of how I want certain things to be, not only in my personal life, but also in the work context.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not going to work out exactly how you thought it should.
Yeah.
But there's, like I was saying, there's processes and that are in place that can help you if those things become challenging. You don't have to take it on yourself. You don't have to carry the world on your shoulders. Because I think I'm also becoming aware of how, I guess, how that plays out in like my romantic relationships, and how that also plays out, like I was saying, in work. And I want to be like a soft girly also. Me, I want to relax. I want to learn to go with the flow. I want to go with the flow. And it's not something that I've naturally been able to do, because like I said, deputy parent.
And if it makes you feel better, I'm like you. the deputy parent thing, and I own it. Control.
Yeah. Okay. Well, own it, please, because in owning it, I feel safer. Who say
I
it?
assume control naturally. And I don't know, maybe it's a trauma response.
It
Maybe
might be.
something happened and
Yeah.
to survive, I had to take control. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm aware that
Yes.
naturally that is
That's
my
your
response.
default.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
default.
Yeah.
And I've tried all sorts of things to work through it and whatever, but hey,
It
there's
is what
my
it
own.
is.
That's a part of my own. There it is, that control.
And it's okay.
Yeah. So
Right?
for me,
Yeah.
what is really helpful is learning to dial it down.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in a space and I know that these people maybe softer,
Yeah.
quieter,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
yeah.
I know, Mayo, here you must be here.
Like it's okay to be here.
Let the people
This is where you
speak.
need to be, actually.
Yes. And then in certain
Yeah.
circumstances where I can see we're all like, yeah,
You're like, I can
we're
bring
all
it.
here.
I can bring
then
it.
I'm that person that says, okay, how
Yeah.
do we take all of this and work together? How do
Yeah.
we collaborate?
Yes.
Then I dial it up because it's
Yes.
needed.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
if we
Situational.
see,
Yeah.
because if we see things about ourselves in a negative way, then it goes back to that sinner space.
Condemnation. I don't want
I
this. I
need
can't
to
own
change.
it.
I
must
must
let go.
change. This is not feminine. This is not what it means to be
That
a
time
woman.
you're trying to be a girly.
Because I went through that space
Hey.
of I have to tone it down. Actually, I don't.
Yes.
I just need to
Yeah.
regulate it because there's space for it. So, what would you say to somebody that's listening to this right now and they feel that they are stuck? They're
Yeah.
stuck in the space where there's expectations, whether it's the wife, the husband, family, culture, whatever it is. And there's this thing here called me that is calling me. And they just can't seem to make that shift to get into the space of being more themselves, right? So, what question would you advise them to ask themselves?
I think maybe the question is, what does a life worth living look like? Right? Because I think for a lot of us, you live your life on autopilot. And there's an audiobook I recently listened to that was recommended by a friend, which is Outwitting the Devil. Outwitting the Devil,
okay.
by Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
Right, and the concept, or some of the key concepts I took from there was that it's either you spend your life drifting, so on autopilot. So I grew up in this environment, my mom was like this. By watching my mom being like that, I am like that. And I guess in a way you end up almost like recreating a similar experience to people, or to the one that the people in your life have had, or in the society that you grew up in. And it sort of fits the narrative, right? So if maybe that experience is, oh, men are trash, then that's the experience you actually ultimately end up creating, because not only do you think it, it's the people you attract, the information you take in, everything basically speaks to that. So you're living your life on autopilot, going with the flow of what society is saying, what social media and all of that is saying. Or you could live your life by design, right? So essentially saying, okay, so this is where the trend is going. Mjolo is a pandemic. Work is a plantation, right? And that's the experience everybody's having. And then you can say, but that is not the experience of life I want to be having. So then in questioning for yourself, or in asking yourself, what does a life worth living look like? You start, and I guess defining what your key values are, right? To say, okay, a life worth living for me is a life filled with love. And love isn't something that I'm only going to be experiencing, let's say in my romantic relationships or in my relationships with my family and friends. But even at work, we can experience love, right? Because there are friendships that can form in the work that we're doing. But it's the love also that we have for the work that we are doing. But it's that energy of love that is flowing through and all around you. So I think that's a key question. And in answering that question for yourself, the key things would be, your self concept, right? Like, so who am I? And that's how I was speaking somewhat to the values. And I think one of the key trends that I've seen on social media now, especially among the girls, is becoming her, or like being her, and her in capital letters, HER. And it's like, okay, so who is this Lucy, the higher self of Lucy? What does she look like? What does she smell like? How does she speak? How does she present herself? And I think for me that actually also like translated into and that's something you noticed as well today. We spoke about it. But my smile, right? So at some point, well, for most of my life, I had a gap, right, in my teeth. And as my life was unraveling, that was one of the first things that I changed about my appearance. To say, what would it look like if I had like a perfect set of teeth? So then I invested in that, right? And I think what that has afforded me is it's enhanced my confidence, right? Because I was actually thinking about it to say, if I still had the gap, would I be sitting here on this podcast right now?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought about that yesterday to say, there were so many moments where I almost always felt like people were looking at my gap as I was speaking. So I'd be doing a presentation and you are looking at me, but my sister, I would think you're looking at the gap, right? So I struggled actually when I would be presenting to a group of people, which happens quite a lot, right? In like the roles I'm in and things like that.
Yeah.
But I was always mindful of how people are receiving me. And I would place it primarily on the gap. So imagine how that would have continued to limit me, right? If I didn't make that small change.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So what does a life worth living look like?
Yeah. And it's such a deep, reflective question.
Yeah.
And I'm actually answering it for
yourself.
myself.
Yeah.
Am I living a life by design?
Yeah.
100% yes.
Love it.
And how did I get here? That's where my
Yes,
mind went
is
to.
going.
And
Yeah.
it got me thinking around sacrifice. Because you can't just wake up and, today I'm living a life by design,
Yes,
guys.
we are here.
So what were some of the things that you had to sacrifice to build this life by design?
It's a sacrifice or investment. Because I think my mind is maybe for now leaning towards investment and
okay.
less so on sacrifice. So I think some of it, like I said, it's the cash monies spent towards the smile.
Yeah.
And just, I guess, my overall look, right? I didn't wear that much color. Now I'm like pretty much almost always wearing color, right? So investing in a new wardrobe, investing in the therapy, investing in, at some point, especially when I guess first moved out of our home, like I needed like a lot of nurturing, right? So I had started this practice of taking myself for massages, like almost like every month. So it was a tradition for about a year. Well, every month I'm going to go and get a massage because I needed somebody to tobeta me, and just, yeah. So I think those, I would say, were some of the investments that I had to make into stepping into who I am. And maybe a sacrifice somewhat would be, I don't know if it's a sacrifice, but as I'm learning to find like an authentic expression of myself, there's the risk of what some people might think about some of the things I have to say, right? Like the conversation about sinner versus made in the image of God and what does that translate into. I'm aware that it's not something that always lands for some people. Hence, I also like started by saying it might not be theologically sound because there is a case to be made for I am a sinner and. But where I am right now, I'm willing to risk it.
Yeah.
And that's okay because it's my journey to finding my authentic expression of me, right? Yeah, and I think it aligns somewhat with almost like the vision that I had set for myself at the beginning of this year, because I was with my friends and we were doing like a Vision 2025 type of thing. And for me, I was like, for the first time this year, I actually don't have like goals, right?
Yeah.
It's more of I had one keyword, which was alignment. So like I want to get in alignment with who I am, right? Who I was designed to be as I came into this world, get into alignment with what my purpose or my reason for being is. And I think for that to happen, it needed me to tune out the outside noise, learn to be still and connect with self,
Yeah.
lower self and capital S, and bring them together. And that's the journey that I'm still on. I'm enjoying it.
Love it for you. And what are some of the daily habits that support this new way of living? Because if you think about it, whatever we choose in our life, it's an accumulation of little things we do every day. So what supports you on this part of your journey?
Yeah. So I do quite a bit of journaling. So I think reflecting is a huge part of it. So whether it's reflecting on the things that are happening at work, the mini encounters, the moments of discomfort, or just in relationships, because I'm currently living at home, relationships with my mom, my little brother, with friends as well. I listen to a lot of music as well, but I've become quite intentional also with the music I listen to. So like on the way here, I was listening to a song by Moses Bliss, titled Bigger Every Day. And it basically says, we're getting bigger every day.
On
Like
the
that's
way to the podcast,
you know
guys.
what? We're getting bigger
Love
every
that.
day. And that's the gist of it, right?
Yeah.
To say, that's how I see myself, that's how I speak to myself. So even the music I listen to, I'm not going to listen to music that I now find to be, let's say, leaning towards codependency or like life sucks, or I don't listen to content like that. I think I'm more intentional with what I take in. So including the music, because like I said, I listen to a lot of music. Prayer is a huge one, right? And I think for me, I've also discovered different forms of prayer. And it might not be a discovery per se, but it's a discovery for me to say there's the kneeling and praying, but there's also I think there's a podcast I listen to. I think he calls it contemplative prayer, right? So it's almost like every moment is a prayer, right? So it's maybe just a short story related to that. With food, right? My ex used to say that I need to cook with a bounce in my step. And at the time, I was like, brother, I don't understand. What do you mean cook with a bounce in your step? Like, we eat 4 times a week food cooked by me.
Yeah.
What does cooking with a bounce in your step look like? But I think as I have learned to go inward, even for me, food has taken on a different kind of meaning, right? So I can almost like taste the love in the food, right? Now, when I am preparing a meal for people, I want to make sure that I'm in a space where I am like flowing with love, right? So if I'm in a bad mood, if I'm thinking about work, if I'm thinking about, I would prefer rather to not cook and maybe let somebody else cook or outsource the meal, right? But not necessarily be the, because it's almost like, I mean, it's a bit extreme, but I'm like, I feel like I'm feeding you poison because my state of being right now isn't one that is going to infuse love into this meal that I'm preparing for you. And if I can't do that, then like, why?
Yeah.
Right? So that for me, I guess, feels like it's prayer. Like I'm in a state where I am. It's not so much about praying for the food once I've prepared it and I'm like, God bless the food we're about to eat. That for me, I think is secondary. But the primary thing is in the preparation of the food, what is my state of being? And just, I guess, being more intentional, moment to moment. Those are some of the, I guess, the daily practices.
And what you said about prayer, it resonates so deeply with me because I think we've confined prayer to this or closing your eyes. I'm praying
Connecting
now.
with the one.
I must pray for 10 minutes because yesterday I only made it 5. Yeah. And let us pray.
And then condemning ourselves for
Yeah.
not doing it for a certain duration.
Exactly
as well.
my point.
Because when you say 10 minutes, I'm like, 10 minutes, Mayo. 1 hour, my sister. 1 hour. Where is your intercession?
Hey, I was praying for 6 there. I'm thinking 10 minutes is long.
Did you read the Bible before you prayed?
Yeah, no, it's a lot. And what comes up for me is prayer in my world is taking a walk through nature. That is my prayer, baby girl.
Yes. And I can relate to that.
Prayer for me is looking at flowers.
Yes.
Every morning when I wake up, go to my sitting room.
Yes.
There's always a beautiful vase.
Yes.
With fresh
Yes.
flowers. And for me, that is my prayer.
Yes, because it makes you feel connected to the one who created the beauty that is the flowers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can totally relate.
So we have a tradition on this podcast where I ask, what is your purpose, Lucy? What is your purpose?
I would say that my purpose is to know myself, to be myself, and then to love myself, right? And then with all of that, create a space where other people can do the same for themselves, right? Because I think that's very important in that journey to defining that life that is worth living and then actually ultimately living that life that is worth living. Which is why, for example, when you asked me to do this podcast, I was like, it's almost like it's a no-brainer because part of what I feel called to do is, I think I'm a healer at some level, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm called to help people find that healing through storytelling as well. Because I think there's so much in our own stories that as we share them, it also affords other people an opportunity to reflect for themselves and almost like be a mirror for somebody else. Because I don't think my story is all that unique as well, right? But I'm like, maybe it's in the, what do you do with your story that creates the difference? So knowing self, being self, loving self, the points around integration and all the things we've spoken about. And then, like I'm saying, helping other people on that journey to doing the same for themselves. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's my purpose.
Love that.
That's why I'm here.
And thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our time together. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for being a vessel for the healing as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.